Good morning. I started to load this video this morning and I had a moment where I realized that this is almost like journaling for me every day, where I sit down and I journal. And it feels really, really good. It feels really good. I was doing some reflecting yesterday. It was a very eye-opening day. And I realized that buried under all of our bullshit, and that's really it. A lot of the important stuff gets buried under the bullshit. And now that I'm this far into my healing and my journey, looking back, I realized that all I really did was recover three primary things in life: what I love, communication, and conscious awareness. And I use the word stupid a lot. And when I was using the word stupid, especially in my class yesterday morning, I was subconsciously, not really subconsciously, in my mind, I was thinking, should you really be using the word stupid? And I remembered my brother. I love my brother to pieces. I did. This is the younger one. He is not intelligent. It's just that simple. He is not intelligent. Stupid is a choice. Being unintelligent or uneducated is a choice because it is the easiest thing to grow. It is the easiest thing to expand. Intelligence requires almost no effort. All you have to do is read. And for several people, that's a lot of fun. All you have to do is watch YouTube channels. It's not hard. And it's not massive. If you sit down and say, I want to be a doctor, and then you look at the amount of schooling, that's overwhelming. But you're building blocks. I remember sitting in math class, and it's so funny. My math teacher would give us information, and I would sit there and do the math problems. And I was 9th grade, 8th grade, and I would struggle at first. And then I remember getting to this one particular point when I was doing it, and I started psychoanalyzing learning. I remember doing this when I was in 8th and 9th grade. Why does a math problem present itself difficult in one course but not the next? And then I realized that it's because you have gaps of education, because you're supposed to learn with stepping. It's supposed to be ladder learning. I love saying that, ladder learning. I just want to walk around over and over again saying ladder learning. Ladder learning is when you lay the foundation, and every time you put down one piece of foundation, you're doing two things. The first thing you're doing is you are expanding on what's already there, and you are laying the foundation for what's to come. So it's really important that before you move on to the next level, you really solidify each and every stone. Now, if you have a government or a teacher telling you that you're not learning fast enough, they're going to go on without you. They're going to go on and you're going to be like, wait a minute, I don't understand this stepping stone. Now you have gaps. Now you have a weak foundation. Now you have some students who can't move on and other kids who are like bored with the material because their foundation is solid. And I have spent so much time just analyzing, why is one child just flourishing with information, but another child isn't? And it's because there are bits of information that are required in your belief system prior to that moment that allow you to see a certain point of view to solidify the foundation for you to start building on. Basic information that we all should have, but we don't. And people will start up an education and they won't check to see if the prerequisites are in place. They'll just start educating. My brother and I went to a parochial school. We went to a one-room schoolhouse. my older brother and I. There was a very clear divide between my older brother and I and my younger siblings. He and I went into a parochial school. I had a one-room schoolhouse, so did he. We had a very Christian upbringing where we were at the church 7 days a week. In 1999, all of that changed. Now, I was 10. My brother was 12. But my siblings, my younger ones, were 6. And my brother Aaron wasn't even born yet. So my sister and my younger brother grew up in the public school. Adam and I lived and grew up in the Christian school. The Christian school did not actually teach you anything. It was a do-it-yourself, sit-down, silent reading program called PACE, P-A-C-E. It's still around today if you're into the Christian parochial thing. And what that taught he and I both was our ability to DIY learning. All we have to do is ask the question. We got the rest. We're Gen X's. We have that in us. We know how to find an answer. I remember this one time, he and I sat down and we had that conversation about education. How grateful we were that we could get any answer we wanted. All we had to do was ask the question. We were very resourceful. Whereas my younger sister and my younger brother, they could not. They lacked the ability to pursue an answer. The ability to pursue answers is the crux of intelligence. It's very much if you teach a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. My brother and I were taught how to fish. My younger siblings were just given fish every day. And I've watched my younger sister and my brother, my sister and my younger brother struggle with learning to the point where neither one of them really know how. Whereas my older brother and myself, nothing stops us. We just have to ask the question and then we can take care of the rest on our own. I taught myself how to knit. After begging my mom, I started begging my mom at 4 years old to teach me how to knit. And when I was 39, 38, I said, fuck this shit. And I went on YouTube and I taught myself how to knit finally. And then I did nothing else for a year but knit. Literally a year. I would wake up, I would get my coffee, and then I would knit. And then I would go to sleep at night. I would wake up and I would get my coffee and I would knit. And that is literally all I did for 1 year. It was like I was making up for all the knitting I had never done. And then my sisters wanted to learn. And they did not have the ability to teach themselves. The ability to teach yourself is, in my opinion, the difference between intelligent and not. Because an intelligent person will understand how to get answers. And once you know how to get answers, once you understand how the psychology of learning actually is, nothing can stop you. You can look at something and say, oh, I have a roadblock. I am weak in this area. I need to go back and revisit that. So you do. You go back and you revisit it and you plug in the hole and you fill the foundation and you restabilize it. And then you can go on. And I remember when I did that, it was with proofs in algebra. I was struggling. And at that time, I was studying philosophy. I was studying mathematics and I was studying geometry. I was studying music theory and I was studying algebra and I could not comprehend it. I remember the day the switch in my brain flipped on. I read the book, Sophie's World. Not Sophie's Choice, Sophie's World. Sophie's World was boring, interesting, dry, curious, and rather uneventful. until I got to the very end of the book and I understood. The author spends the entire book laying out philosophy and existentialism so that when you get to the end, you finally have a solid comprehension of philosophy, the ability to think, the ability to understand, the ability to think. So that when he presents you with a highly illogical situation, your brain just turns on and goes, that doesn't make any sense. Confusion. Confusion is one of my favorite emotions. Confusion is the red flag that says information is missing or somebody's tampering with your system. Confusion is an amazing, amazing emotion. In an educational setting, confusion is, excuse you, we are missing information. When you feel confused in a classroom, you should be raising your hand saying, excuse you, I am clearly missing data because I don't understand. But if you're not in a classroom and you're having a conversation with somebody about a point of view and you suddenly feel confused, there's a good chance they're gaslighting you and they are contradicting your point of view and corrupting it. And once you realize that the emotion confusion is actually a red flag for abuse, boy, you have a lot of power. Suddenly you're no longer a victim. Now you take that power, that knowledge, intelligence, and you combine it with your communication skills, your ability to say, what the fuck? You're corrupting me. You are literally contradicting my point of view. How dare you contradict my point of view? Now we can compare point of views. Isn't this interesting? I realized yesterday that I don't know what I love. I don't remember. And I sat down, I called my mom on the phone. My mom and I talked on the phone for like an hour. And I heard myself navigate this conversation with my mother. I have not spoken to my mother since my son's graduation about 3 weeks ago. I am a different person. Usually, when I grew up, whenever my mom started talking, there was a lot of putting the phone down, letting her talk. I stopped doing that about 20 years ago, and I said to her, Mom, I can't hear this. She loves to gossip. And I sat down with her and said, I cannot have that. If you gossip, I'm going to have to end the phone call. She really reeled that in. My sister, in the meantime, complained. Oh my God, Mom's going on and on. So tell her. Oh no, I couldn't do that. Why not? Tell her. It's called communication. And I watched me handle my mother in one direction while the rest of the family handled her in another. My youngest brother refuses to talk to her. He disowned her literally for 20 years, and he will probably never talk to her again because he's stupid. Because he is of the opinion that people can't change, that people don't change, that the person he knows, not even, he never knew her, the person he concluded on his own that she is, cannot possibly be anything different than he perceives it to be. My daughter has the exact same opinion of me. She just made a conclusion, formed a perspective of me, and then clung to it. Because her perspective, my brother's perspective, allows them to have and maintain the mental illness that they have. I can't handle it. I can't touch it. Well, I can handle it, but yeah, there's nothing to do. They've got to figure this out. So we set that aside. But my sister keeps talking to my mom, and she calls me up and she's like, oh my God. And at one point we went through a period where we had the whole, instead of talking to my mother and saying, Mom, I'm not comfortable with the situation, could we please talk about something else? We formed a pact where I could call up my sister. My sister would text me and say, save me. I'm on the phone, Mom. And everyone does this. Like, not everyone, but quite a few people do this. And I stopped one day and I said, no, you need to learn how to communicate with Mom. I'm not going to enable this. And now I just tell her. So I was on the phone with her last night and I could feel my energy draining at one point. She started to get into her gossip and tell me all the drama of upstate. And I stopped and I said, Mom, this is not good energy for me. I can give you maybe 5 more minutes and then we have to change the topic or I need to end the call. She had no problems changing the topic. I navigated the entire conversation with her for the entire hour, telling her, this is my limit. This is what I can't do. This is what I can do. And there was no hesitation. There was no worry. My mother is the only one in my entire life who understands that she's a slave. My mom gets it. She is still a slave. It's interesting. While we were on the phone, my stepfather walked in and she went, he's back. We got to change the subject. And I said, wow, Mom, I can never do that again. I lived like that, changing topics, dodging conversation, making sure that everything was precisely how it needed to be to accommodate the slave master or he's going to throw a tantrum. Fuck that shit. So I would shrink myself, watch my words, censor my behavior, censor my conversation, cultivate friends, nurture them in an exact way to accommodate and please my husband so he wouldn't have an emotional upset. Fucking bullshit. If that's not slavery, I don't know what is. And in the off chance that you don't choreograph this nightmare of a dance just right, you have the Leviathan to deal with. And that Leviathan could be an angry drunk beating the fuck out of you, or a tantrum, or him just telling you that you're worthless. And suddenly your entire life revolves around maintaining your husband's tantrums. And I'm watching my mom do it while I'm sitting in Brooklyn, completely separated from that lifestyle now. It's been 3 years since I've been in that lifestyle. And I said that to her. I said, wow, Mom, I can't do that. I said, I can barely listen to you explain it to me. There's no way I can go back. I will never again speak to my sister. I will never again speak to my father because I cannot put any energy into that choreographed nightmare ever again. My communication system is fully restored. Every day I step on and I practice communication. That's why I podcast. This is me just reinforcing and strengthening my communication. And it all revolves around what we love. And I can see the intelligence. And it's the 3 things we are taken away from: love, communication, and intelligence. So I don't have a problem looking at somebody going, if you are not conscious aware, you are stupid. It's not PC. It is offensive, but it's true. It's transparent. It's honest. Conscious awareness is mindfulness. Conscious awareness is logic. Conscious awareness is knowledge, applied knowledge. Conscious unawareness is you being the little bitch to your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is a rogue AI robot. And if you're taking orders from a robot, an antiquated system that's out of control, you are fucking stupid. It's that simple. It really is. Either you do or you don't. I used to be fucking stupid also. I used to be really fucking stupid. And when I realized that what I was living was unintelligent, I changed it. I consciously chose to level up. I wanted to be better. I sat down with my mom and I told her, I don't remember who I am. I don't remember what I love. My life is filled with work and my mental health. I don't remember what I love. And she said, my mom just stepped up. It was amazing to watch. She really started just pouring everything into her game. She says, Zana, you love books. You love reading. You love dance. You love music. You love music. You love Ireland. Oh, yeah, I do. I said, I haven't listened to Irish music in 3 years. I haven't read a book in 3 years. The last time I read a book was in 2020. So my daughter jumped right away to help me out with this. So I have Hatchet. And I'm reading it this morning. I'm like, all right. So instead of doing my gratitude journal right off, I mean, I still did it. I grabbed Hatchet. And I'm downstairs sipping my coffee in the sun and I'm reading the first chapter. This is hilarious to me. And I get to this part where this boy, it's the first chapter, he's in a plane. And the boy's like talking about altimeter, altitude meter, a way to measure the altitude. And I've never heard of this thing before, which, okay, fine. Of course it exists. That's not my point. But he's going on with all of these little things. And I'm thinking, because I'm an author, I'm thinking, yes, Mr. Paulson sat there and did all this research for the book on all of these different flying parts. And I'm reading, and he's got a way, the author has a way of emphasizing a situation by repeating the words. Not my favorite style of writing, but okay. So I'm getting through it and I'm like, oh, I don't like his style of writing. By the way, when you become an author, you start to critique other authors' ability to handle the pen. And then you get on this level of going, ooh, I don't like the way he writes. So you have to find somebody who matches your style or is up to your standards. Diana Gabaldon is amazing, which really limits what you can read. Or it really teaches you a lesson in patience and humility. I choose to have a lesson in patience and humility. So I'm reading this book, and he's going off about all these different flying parts. And I'm thinking, this child is 8 years old. 10. He's 10 years old. What did I know about flying planes at 10 years old? And I thought, Lord of the Flies. That was my flying knowledge at 10 years old, Lord of the Flies. Now, if you read Lord of the Flies, there is no airplane knowledge. It's just the plane crashing in the beginning, which is the extent of my plane flying knowledge at 10 years old. Not even 10. At 10, I was in a hospital being told I had to heal my cousin who was dying. So I'm looking at this going, what 10-year-old knows this shit about planes? Now, as I'm walking back upstairs, I'm analyzing my behavior. I love analyzing my own behavior. And I'm thinking things like, interesting. I'm comparing my point of view to Paulson's point of view. Now, in my point of view, I didn't study airplanes because they don't interest me. I was studying ships. Now that's interesting. So I was studying sextants, and I was studying compasses, and I was studying the stars, and I was studying all the different parts of the ship, the strikes, the sheets, the lines. Yeah, the rudder, the bow, starboard side, port side. Port is left. The bow, the rudder. Yeah. That's what I was studying. I was learning how to sail, and I was learning how to do sailor's knots because that interested me. But Gary Paulson apparently enjoyed airplanes. So when he was 5 to 10 years old, he took the time at some point to study airplanes. And I remembered when I was reading it this morning, I was criticizing the author, judging him, thinking, What 10-year-old knows anything about airplanes? And then I said, Anna, his experience, his point of view, his love is airplanes. Yours was ships. It's just a point of view. Just because your point of view isn't like his doesn't mean his was false or wrong. It just means that it was different. And then I felt my perspective shift from judgmental to critical to open-minded. And I went, oh, isn't that interesting? Now I get to relish in the joy of comparing my knowledge and experience to his knowledge and experience. Comparing perspectives with curiosity and open-minded. Interesting. Intelligence is just that. It is the ability to navigate our perspective. It is the ability to shift our own point of view when we realize that it's not serving us. It is easily the most vital bit of knowledge anyone can have. The ability to change their own point of view on a whim. The ability to confidently communicate what you need and what you want. And the knowledge of what you love. This is really what we need to be teaching people. Because when you teach these three things, you have the ability to then say, you know what I love? I love ships, and I love history, and I love New York City, and I love philosophy. And because I can communicate, I'm going to seek out those things and I'm going to study them now. My daughter's playing the Sims game and she's taking her Sims to college. Sims is a game that started in 1999. I am a Simmer. And it is basically a virtual reality game where you get to boss around dolls as if you're God. It's one of my favorite games. You create an avatar and then you tell the avatar what to do and you just boss the avatar around. That is literally the game of Sims. It is dolls. It is virtual dolls. In fact, when it first was invented back in 1999, it was referred to as the virtual dollhouse. And I have played every version of Sims masterfully, except Sims 2 because it was creepy, from 1999 to now. So we're on Sims 4, and I have every expansion pack, and I have played every version of Sims, except Sims 2 that you can possibly think of. And I do mean every one of them. And I'm watching my daughter now play it, and she's got them all going to college, and she's complaining. She's like, oh my God, I have to go through all of this college and education, and it doesn't leave me any time to take care of my needs. Yes, that is the patriarchy. They plan it that way. And I'm thinking, who comes up with these curriculums? And she's like, I'm not going to college. She wants to be an artist when she grows up, which is one of the reasons why we live in New York City. And she's like, I don't want to go to college. I said, Lizzie, you don't have to go to college. There's a million different paths to get to your end result. You don't have to go to college. I didn't go to college. I don't condone college. That's another arm to the patriarchy. And I'm like, no, this concept of, oh, you have to go to college. No, you can self-learn so easily today. It's ridiculous. And it was amazing to watch her navigate this university online. And at 15, she's assessing, is this really what college is like? I said, I've heard that it's like this. And honestly, the people who built the game went to college and they recreated the experience. So I would say, yeah, that's pretty accurate. Everything else with Sims has been pretty accurate. Yeah, that's about right. And she just went, this is stupid. And I went, yeah, people really don't question a system when they're told everybody else is doing it. So and I went off the beaten path. I did. I went off the traditional path and I pursued my own education. At 15, I pursued my own interests and my own studies. And I didn't have a curriculum telling me which ones I should or shouldn't study. I just studied what I wanted, which is why I absorbed so much of it, was because I was passionate about it. Passion. Passion. I always envisioned my dream life when I was a child. My dream was always to just fill my days with nothing but everything I love doing. When I was 5 and 10 and 15 years old, I had plans to just sit and read and knit and play video games and podcast and act and write books. And for a time, I lived like that. That was in 2015 when I was coming out of my hellhole and I was starting therapy and I was creating my first company as a method to transform and transmute my traumas. And I poured everything I was, all of my sunlight, into my business, a lot like what I'm doing now. When you take your passion and you dump all of that passion and love into a company or a business, it changes the game. It really changes the game. I wanted to be a teacher, and here I am. I wanted to be a philosopher, and here I am. I wanted to be an actress, and here I am. I wanted to be an author, and oh, I am. You know, in every step of the way, I had an abuser telling me that the way I was going about doing it was wrong. And I am just tapped out with being told how I should do things. It was energy I no longer needed, and I threw it away. And you know, that's really where I am now, as I align myself more and more with the energy and the frequency, the more I realize, oh, that damages my energy. Keep that away. Oh, that feels good for my energy. I'm going to bring that in. Oh, that's really nice for my energy. I'm going to keep that. Oh, that's not good for my energy. Get that away. And I'm literally cherry picking now events and things in my life, people, to nurture my energy. And I'm setting up boundaries to keep things away from it that harm it. I've had a lot of problems with people. Part of it's my trauma. But all of this peopling escalated through 2022 into 2023. And it came to a head between last summer and this summer. I am really, really trying to ignore that. And I just don't think my ADHD is going to let me. Thank you. I love New York. In May of 2023, all of my peopling came to a dead standstill. I was receiving a lot of pressure from my then partner, telling me very bluntly that I needed friends, that people need to socialize. People need to socialize. I'm going to be very blunt. That is a lie. We do not need to socialize. Every now and then, somebody says, we need to socialize. We are social creatures. No, we are not. And I can prove it. Around this time, somebody will cite someone, an old woman or an old man, who, when their spouse and partner after 60 years dies, they die about a month later. That people are dying all over the place from isolation and solitude. There are more people living in hermitage peace than there are people dying from loneliness. Socializing is a personal need. People are not social animals. We're not. This is a lie, a gaslight told by the patriarchy to keep us all huddled together and obedient. I was a hermit. I still am. I can go months without talking to anybody, and I am very happy because my social needs are non-existent. But my partner had really high social needs. Now, I believe that the reason why his social needs were so high was because he was disconnected from his own self. See how that works? Your social needs are only high when you are disconnected from the identity. When you are connected to the identity, you don't need people. What you need is identity. So what ends up happening is our identity basically goes away. It completely drains us. And our social requirements go through the roof to compensate, almost as an addictive quality, for the lack of identity that we have. So our identity goes away and our need to socialize increases. But as you recover your identity, your social requirements go down, which is why so many people who are healed, united with their identity, pull away from social situations and go, I don't need people. I got myself. Thank you. Now, the government, whose entire purpose is designed to destroy our identity, knows this. This is part of the plan. So after destroying our identity to get us to cooperate and obey, they know that we're going to need to socialize because our identity is dead. So they push this idea on us that we all need to socialize. So we start pursuing romances. We start pursuing friendships. We start pursuing all of this other bullshit to keep us distracted from the fact that we have lost our identity. So no, we do not need to socialize. We are not social animals. If anything, whenever I hear anything that my father said, my father was a great vessel of the patriarchy. My father was a phenomenal vessel of just regurgitating all the garbage from the patriarchy. And one of his favorite things to say was, you can't be a hermit. You have to obey the society and the system. Well, here I am with very little requirements for socialization. I don't need friends. I don't pursue friends. I don't want friends. So last night, I get this message from a leftover. We're going to call it a leftover. This is somebody who contacted me. A friendship started last summer, and then it kind of trailed off. And it does what all friendships do in New York City, where after some back and forth conversation, they trail off and you never hear from them again. Unless they want something. Yeah. And I'm very familiar with that garbage. That is the, can you do me a favor? Which is a trigger word for me. Whenever I hear the phrase, can you do me a favor? That's a red flag. Users, narcissists and takers use that phrase. Can you do me a favor? So in April of this year, we had our last conversation, which was her messaging me to say, can you do me a favor? And it was, she wanted me to download this app so she could get free stuff. And then I never heard from her again. My birthday came and went. I didn't hear from her. I had my birthday picnic. I never heard from her. No happy birthday, no follow-up. Yesterday, July 10th, she messages me out of the blue. She doesn't say hello. She doesn't say, how are you? It's been 4 months. May, June, July, 3 months. All she says is, hey, can you do this app so I can get free stuff? That's how she says hello to me after 3 months of no talking, after she ignores my birthday. This is normal in New York City. And I felt so much hurt and disappointment. It was a reminder of those kind of people. I blocked her. I didn't say a word. I just blocked her. This was a friend of my former partner's. So I messaged my former partner. I said, I'm very upset. This friend of yours, this is what just happened. She's a user. And I'm going to let you have that kind of a friend. That's not good enough for me. And I am still upset this morning, and I am still hurt, and I just can't. I don't need this kind of energy. And I tried to do the work where I said, you've let it go. Very good. Now you can make room for real friends. And that's when a little voice in my brain said, you don't believe real friends exist. You do not believe that real friends exist. And I went, nope, I don't. I do not believe that people, the way I need them, exist. I get a lot of people who have a conversation with me. It could be a date. It could be philosophy. It could be psychology. And after 10 minutes, they'll say, we're going to be good friends. Mm-hmm. So many people say that to me every day. And then they insist that I don't have to charge them because we're friends. Suddenly I have a friend who's blowing up my texts, complaining, dumping bad energy on me. Suddenly I have friends messaging me and DMing me. So I've gotten to a point when people tell me that they're going to be my friend. I have this huge association in my brain that friend equals user, friend equals taker, friend equals this person's just wanting to use you and get free shit. The thing is, I don't need anybody and I don't want anybody. I have my identity and I have intuition and I have all the things I love. And I have built an entire lifestyle around my independence. And then I see people on Facebook making comments like, hyper independence is a trauma response. And I look at that and I go, is it? Is it? Or it's total confidence and self-love. So I did some manifesting last night to the tune of, I wish I could believe that people were good. And I wish that I could believe that there are actually honest, decent friendships out there. And I'm going to start manifesting that I believe it. And then I'll start believing it. And I'm really going to work on opening my heart and being open-minded to see if anyone can actually prove me wrong. But I'm very skeptical. I just don't do well with socializing because I have yet in 43 years to see a single person prove me wrong. And I have met a lot of people. I have met so many people. And my former partner said to me last week, very coldly, yeah, you just have too high of a standard. You expect too much from people. I expect humanity from people. I expect people to be kind. I expect people to be genuine. I have yet to find anyone who's fucking genuine. And I think that's why I don't have my sunlight. I think my sunlight was my love for people. And there's a lot of hurt there and bitterness. I don't even know if I have forgiveness. I'm still just hurt. So I don't have my sunlight. I just keep it to myself. And I can feel my sunlight inside of me. But I don't feel like anyone's worthy of getting my sunlight, so I don't share it anymore. And the last time I had out my sunlight was because I believed that there was good in this fucking world. Oh, there is so much good in this world, but I don't think it's in the people yet. I have lost my faith in humanity. That's why I have no sunlight. I was starting to get it back, and then I was raped in May. And the people who set me up for that rape were my friends. And then I called up. I want nothing to do with it anymore. In 2021, my then partner introduced me to a group of people. And they were warm. And they helped me realize what and who I am. They gave me a home and a family. And I made it very clear to everyone that they were my chosen family after I had lost everything. And they took me in with open arms. And then my breakup happened. And I watched them not take sides. And they continued to welcome me. Except now, every time I'm there, I get to look at my ex. And I don't want that. But then I realized when I was raped that the raping he did was so systematic that he teaches men how to do it. And I am not quiet. So I told everybody, this is what he did. And this is how he does it. And everybody who called me family and friend chose him over me because I'm a whistleblower. And I went, okay, lesson learned. You chose a bad family. And I have not had my sunlight since. And in about 2 weeks, the family reunion is hosted. And I'm not wanted or welcome. And I'm going, good riddance, I don't need them. My former partner is going, knowing that they kicked me out and ostracized me for being a whistleblower. And aside from him feeling bad for me, he's going anyway. And I just want to close the door on all of it and say, go to fucking hell. And that's not very leadership of me. And I'm supposed to forgive them. And then I get this woman messaging me out of that group going, can you do me a favor? And I think it's just time I close that door and walk away. Yeah, I think I'm done. I'm done. I want my sunlight back. And I just am not going to get it. I got to work my way through this, and I have just got to figure out the paths to go. So I just got to figure out my path right now.